The Salty Sponge is hilarious, and it can be the blueprint to having good episodes, and it all starts with having a tough SpongeBob. One of the biggest complaints about modern SpongeBob is that he is hardwired to be happy, even in situations when earlier he would feel different. It gives his false sense of hyperactiveness and empty positivity that makes newer episodes miss that secret formula. And there is a secret formula, by the way, to this episode, and we'll get into that later, but here we see SpongeBob happy, sad, fearful, curious, but most importantly, tough, which isn't a common emotion for the little guy. How do you avoid this problem while still making it funny and realistic to SpongeBob's character? It sounds incredibly obvious, but let him react naturally. He's tasked to work at the Salty Spitoon, one of the toughest establishments within the Bikini Bottom, and naturally is scared that he'll be chewed up and spit out, not being muscle-bound and scary like the rest of the guys. Seeing SpongeBob afraid made the stakes of getting out alive actually mean something, because he's selling the idea that he can get hurt. Sure, SpongeBob isn't gonna die in this episode or anything like that, but he's gotten hurt before, and that made for great episodes. The problem modern SpongeBob tends to have is that they would have episodes where SpongeBob ignorantly causes pain to people around him, but he gets away scot-free even though he did wrong too because he's more likable. They avoid that here, instead allowing SpongeBob to interact with all of the tough guys and even have his own version of a standoff towards the latter half of this episode. Speaking of standoffs, I want to show you guys exactly how SpongeBob stood up to this tough biker gang that even made the bouncer dip out.
Why is the cheese talking to me?
You asked to speak with the tough leader?
No, really. Who let this guy in here?
Can we have more of this? I would love more of this. It's new, it's fresh, it's funny, but also it's memorable. However, I don't consider The Salty Sponge a great episode just because of Tough SpongeBob. The episode actually dodged a bullet that would have destroyed other episodes. There was one episode within the same season that ended up being one of the worst episodes of the show, Squidward's Sick Days. It had a recycled plot, terrible writing, but most importantly, featured the return of handsome Squidward, which in some people's eyes saved the episode, despite a poor story. When I found out that this episode was going to reference Salty Spitoon, the legendary setting from the classic episode No Weenies Allowed, I was worried that it would be a wasted concept, for one reason only. In No Weenies Allowed, we never got to see what was inside. As great as that episode is, it left what was inside up to speculation, and showing us over 20 years later would naturally bring high expectations, which this episode exceeded by a lot. But what made the payoff worth it? I enjoy seeing the muscle-bound character get soft, but still has hands and will use them. It fits really well with this show. The manager of Salty Spitoon was also a cool character to guide the story, and seeing the brick and oil version of a Krabby Patty was creative. Like with Welcome to Binary Bottom, the artists seemed to be in a golden age, but the one character that blew everyone else's out of the water was seeing a tough Mrs. Puff. Now, in fairness, we've seen Mrs. Puff tough before, and I enjoyed that moment in that episode, but here with the widescreen look, the expressive animation, and the fact that we know of her, and outside of boarding school and Mr. Krabs, she's now also the most feared person at Salty Spitoon, at least at the time, is hilarious. This is the best way to introduce new lore rather than retconning or jerry-rigging old episodes to drum up interest. But before we get to the secret formula, I do have some qualms with this episode, and it really comes down to one thing. It's painfully clear that the team is recycling bits and jokes.
Come on and come on to the Salty Spitoon, where all of our cupcakes come with a balloon.
Did we not see this exact same bit in the episode that came out in this exact same month when it came to the crossover? It is painfully clear to me that the team has either run out of ways to produce fresh ideas because they're split between 3 different shows, or they aren't incentivized to produce great shows because the name SpongeBob alone attracts a guaranteed amount of viewership and money. But why isn't an issue if the show is already successful? Well, do you think SpongeBob is on an upward trajectory when it comes to awareness? Because I think it is plateaued, and that's a shame because despite a decade-plus head start, when new episodes drop, there's no reason why they shouldn't trend compared to the shows of today. I see old SpongeBob trend across all social media, but rarely for their new episodes. However, drop a new episode of The Owl House or Craig of the Creek, and it's like a tsunami. Not only that, but they recycle more Squidward pain jokes in this episode for no reason. If you took out Squidward's sole appearance within this episode, nothing about the episode would have to be changed. changed. It's these crutches they have with the writing that holds the episode back from being as fun to speak about as the other contemporary shows and their episodes. Am I saying that the Salty Sponge is an innovative episode? No, but I genuinely feel like this episode tries to be something more than background noise, and that's a lot more than I can say compared to a lot of this 13th season. The biggest kind of argument I usually get to saying things like that is that I simply don't get it. And to that, here's my retort. I made a community post about the anniversary of Midlife Crustacean, which comment down below if you want to see a video on that, and one of the comments hit the nail on the head, speaking about how those 5 images of the collage are 5 different moments of the show that we remember still to this day. And that was intentional of me, because I wanted to prove a point. Pick anything from the last 5 years and do that. Make a collage and see how many people can point out the memorable scenes within them from a still image. If your retort to that would be, oh, people don't know that it's funny because they don't watch it, ask yourself why, because people don't naturally avoid stuff that's funny. That's why I think this episode here, which is funny, has the secret formula that can make SpongeBob a fun show to talk about again. This episode tried more than most to have moments, and to prove so, I'll go through 5 of the best, saving the funniest one for last. Mr. Krabs morphing SpongeBob's face into different faces included one that I'll be seeing in my dreams for the next few days. The octopus shoving a brick in his face and having the derpiest voice explaining why he likes it was stupid but funny. Mrs. Puff headbutting someone is everything I didn't know I needed to see, and bonus points for the face after that. The voice delivery for the now sophisticated shark suggesting putting pickled relish on the weenies actually made me laugh out loud for how wacky and dumb it was. But it was when the tough shark crew saw the Salty Spitoon and had to do a double take of where they actually were that really sealed the episode for me.
No, this is the right place.
Do I enjoy this more than No Weenies Allowed? One, it's early to say, but probably not, and I don't have to. It just has to be good. Trying something new, trying to be funny, trying to be memorable is all fans old and new really want. And the fans of today should have memorable and funny episodes to look back on now when SpongeBob Season 50 comes out and they become people like me, who long for the good old days when they were young. So good job, SpongeBob. Although there will always be one moment that's always going to be etched into my brain when it comes to any episode about the Salty Spitoon, and that is seeing the cheeks of Patrick up close.
That's a thick ass boy!